Hey, what up, MTG fam? Welcome to another episode of Beatdowns with the Boz with yours truly. And while Standard has basically shown in every single top 8 that Mardu and Saheeli combo are basically going to be the dominating decks, there's still some really sweet decks in Standard that you can play. This week I have for you the red-green, the Gruul Electrostatic Pummeler deck. This recently won the Classic at the Star City Open in Dallas. And it's a really fun deck. I'll be going through all the card choices, but I just want to give you guys a quick reminder that we're actually switching up the way that we do our videos, and it's all going to be one long video. So if you want to skip ahead to any of the specific matches, there's going to be timestamps that you can fast forward to. But just to get to what this deck is about, it's an aggro deck, so it's basically just a bunch of threats and some mana, but it really relies on pump spells to push it over the top. And you'll notice that we've got a ton of pump spells, 12 total pump spells, and only 2 removal spells. So we've got, in terms of our threats, we got some pretty potent creatures that are all energy based. So we've got Servant of the Conduit, it's just a grizzly bear that gets us ahead on mana, but it also gives us 2 energy. Voltaic Brawler, it's a pretty mean creature, really good at beating down. 2 mana for something that can attack for 4 is really good. And the fact that when you use an energy to give a +1/+1, it also gets trample, means you can make really good use of pump spells. Longtusk Cub is kind of a energy engine, also a really good target for pump spells, particularly ones that have trample, because you can kill their guy, deal some damage to them, and get the energy. And Longtusk Cub can, kind of go infinite. So it can be a really powerful threat for 2 mana. A little high variance, but when it's good, it's really good. Then we have essentially the namesake of the deck, Electrostatic Pummeler. The fact that this is an artifact makes it a little vulnerable to some extra removal, and it is just a 1/1 for 3 mana, which is not a particularly good rate. But the fact that it gives you some energy when it comes into play helps mitigate the weakness of it. And if you get to attack with it when your opponent is tapped out or doesn't have a removal spell, this thing can get absolutely huge. So even with just 1 or 2 pump spells and some energy, the fact that you can use the pump spell first and then double its power and then double it again means that every pump spell that you use on Electrostatic Pummeler is going to have a monumental effect. You can almost think of it as like an infect creature in that regard. And then to top things out, we have 4 Bristling Hydras. So just in case we are facing an opponent who does have a lot of removal, Bristling Hydra is going to basically be able to hose them. So the pump spells that really make the deck work are, we've got 4 Blossoming Defense, really efficient trick that also gives our creatures hexproof, can protect them from removal spells. Blossoming Defense is probably one of the best cards in this deck, honestly. And then we've got some Rush of Adrenalines, similar to Blossoming Defense, but it gives trample instead of hexproof. So Blossoming Defense is better against removal, Rush of Adrenaline is better against blockers. That's a good way to think of it. And then Larger Than Life is just a really powerful pump spell. It's sorcery speed, so your opponent's going to see it coming, but that may not always make a huge deal. But pretty powerful high impact card, especially with Electrostatic Pummeler. And then finally we have Invigorated Rampage, which can do a lot of what Larger Than Life does, but it can do it at instant speed, and you can split it between 2 creatures, which is pretty sweet with the 2 modes. The one thing that's a little annoying about Invigorated Rampage, though, is it doesn't boost your creature's toughness. So you kind of want to make sure that you're, winning the turn you play this card probably. We have a 20 land mana base, but with 4 Attune with Aether, it ends up functioning closer to 23 land mana base with a pretty healthy distribution of green and red sources. 4 Aether Hubs really do a lot of good work in this deck. And in the sideboard, we've got some Lifecrafter's Bestiary, so we can draw cards against control decks. Lathnu Hellion, so we can pressure control decks a little bit more. Heroic Intervention, so we can be a little stronger against removal spells and potential sweepers. And then 2 Chandra Torch of Defiances as Just a really good non-creature threat against control decks. If we need more removal, we've got it covered in the artifact department with these natural obsolescences and Release the Gremlins. And just to round things out against other aggressive decks, we've got one Aethersphere Harvester, 2 Shocks, and this one Tears of Valakut. So a pretty fun, pretty sweet standard deck. Attacks the format from a much different angle than the most popular decks, and it should be pretty sweet. So we'll stay in this video, and it'll go straight to the first match. And if you want to skip ahead, feel free. Everything's going to be in just one video now, so stay tuned. All right, match number 1. We get to be on the play, which is great. So this is a little annoying because this game trail is obviously going to come into play tapped. On turn 2, we get to play Attune the Aether for a second land drop. But then we're not going to be in a very good situation if we don't draw another land. Like turn 3 Longtusk Cub doesn't seem that exciting. Having these 2 Electrostatic Pummelers though, and the 2 larger than lifes, does seem very exciting to me. So I feel like this is a pretty high variance, risky keep, but I think Electrostatic Pummeler and is just like one of our best cards in game 1. So I kind of want to keep this hand. Like for example, if we just top deck a land, then this is the greatest hand we could ever ask for. And because we're on the play, going turn 3 Longtusk Cub is not that good, but we can make up for lost time with these Electrostatic Pummelers and kill our opponent out of nowhere. So I think I'm going to keep this and acknowledge that it's kind of a risky keep, but this hand could just be the literal nuts. And then everything else is 1 and 2 mana. Wow, and we did it! So sick. I could just fire off the Attune now, and that would make it so that I can definitely play Electrostatic Pummeler on turn 3. But I think I would rather just play the Cub with the intention of being able to go to Attune, maybe larger than life on the upcoming turn. Kind of want to take advantage of this situation where I can get ahead on the board with a Longtusk Cub. All right. I have no idea. Wow, we're just top decking like a hero. Unbelievable. Yeah, this is kind of crazy at this point. I wonder what we're up against. Or if we're up against a brew. And now if our opponent taps out, we just kill them. With 1 larger than life, this Electrostatic Pummeler becomes a 5/5. And then we have enough energy to double. Wow. All right. Well, that was game 1. I have no idea what we're up against. And I have no idea what to do. I have to imagine that our opponent is going to bring in any removal that they have access to. But because our opponent was playing forests, I feel like there's going to be a fair amount of creatures. So I think what I'm going to do I really don't know what I want to do. I think I want to bring in the 2 Chandras. I'm going to leave both Electrostatic Pummelers. And I'll just trim larger than lifes and bring in this Aethersphere Harvester. So I'm a little less heavy on pump effects. And I have slightly better card quality. But I'm not losing the advantage that I hope that I have in this matchup. We could be against some sort of green-black deck, I guess. And they just didn't draw black mana. Could have also been against some sort of teamer deck. But it's really unclear to me. From just 2 basic forests. Walking Ballista. Oh, that's a problem. I love Longtusk Cub. I think Longtusk Cub is awesome. So now I think we're against 4 colors Saheeli. Oh no! My guy, who's so close to actually living too. So let's see. What do I want to play? I think that I want to play the Servant of the Conduit. I would like to have access to both more mana and more energy. And if my opponent just plays a Chandra or something here, I would like to have gotten at least like some sort of value. Yeah, so this is definitely 4 colors Saheeli. Ooh, a land. Land's pretty good. I don't think I really need to get this Bristling Hydra online yet. I think there's actually a lot of value in getting this Longtusk Cub going. So I think I'm going to play the Cub and the Harvester. And that way, even if my opponent plays a Planeswalker, I can potentially kill it. And with access to 5 energy, I can make my Longtusk Cub a 4/4. So another Oath of Chandra is not going to be able to kill my Cub, which is nice. And if my opponent were to play a Chandra and minus on the Longtusk Cub, then my Aethersphere Harvester would be able to kill said Chandra. Wow, Sky Sovereign. Alright, so there goes my Servant, I guess. So I can use the energy. And then my opponent can use his Walking Ballista to finish off the Cub. I think that's kind of okay. So since my Servant of the Conduit is basically 100% to die, I feel like I might as well just attack with it and maybe get a chance to kill the Sky Sovereign. Is that even good? I think that I do an attack with the Servant. And I really wish I had another red mana though. If I attack with the Servant, my opponent blocks with Sky Sovereign. It's great that I can cast Invigorated Rampage, kill the Sky Sovereign, but I think I'm just going to cast the Bristling Hydra. So go. And this way, my Servant of the Conduit can hold up the rush of adrenaline, maybe save Bristling Hydra from Sky Sovereign plus removal spell. Here comes the Sky Sovereign. See what he goes after. Well, not much I can do about that. So I mean, I could crew the Aethersphere Harvester and Rush of Adrenaline it. But oh, that means the Sky Sovereign's a full 4-for-1. I think I'd rather just take the hit and race back. Ooh, that's actually pretty sweet. I'm actually just doesn't seem like a good idea. But it's aggressive. I really wish I had another red source. I could play Voltaic Brawler and still have red mana available. I think I do want to play the Brawler though, as essentially a burn spell. I think the only way, like, my opponent's so ahead on cards, I'm just not going to try to play around them. Oh, actually, I totally messed up. I could actually just be dead in one turn. Yeah, I probably did actually have to kill this. Ugh. Well, I guess I'll attack with both and gain life. I do have quite the glut of red spells. Can't really cast them all. Basic Mountain off the top would be great. Attune with Aether off the top would be real nice. Because of the fact that Sky Sovereign is a vehicle, it is rather costly for my opponent to... Oop, there's Saheeli. So yeah, if my opponent has a land drop, I'm dead. If they choose to go for it. Looks like they're going for it. Is there a land drop? There's the land drop. So it looks like I'm going to be... Oh, wait, no. My opponent still needs something to crew the Sky Sovereign. So does my opponent have a creature? Oh, that pumps both of them. But that doesn't kill me. And the shields are down. Can't really do anything. Oh no, Oath of Chandra, I forgot about the oath. I'm dead. No! No! Alright, well. That's a pretty sweet game anyway. So I think Release the Gremlins can come in. There's the clues, there's gonna be Thopters, and Sky Sovereign is just so hard for me to ever beat. Shock definitely gonna be valuable. Since, man, I think I want more threat density. I don't think I want this Aethersphere Harvester. Um, I don't think I really want. So the issue here with sideboarding is I don't want to be too reactive because I'm not going to win with card advantage. My two Chandras are not enough in that regard. Also, my opponent's deck is kind of good at attacking planeswalkers. So I think I kind of want to do what my deck is good at. You know what? I think I'm not going to have these Release the Gremlins. So what am I even sideboarding here? I think I just took out the 3 larger than lifes for 1 Lathnu Hellion and 2 shocks. And yeah, I think that's all I want to do. Shock protects me from the combo, and it can kill Rogue Refiner and a Walking Ballista. So yeah, I think I'm going to do that. These larger than lifes, though, are really powerful. It's kind of a shame that I don't actually have them. But I think the shocks and the Lathnu Hellion are better. I guess Lathnu Hellion is probably not better. So I'll just do 2 shocks for 2 larger than lifes. Call it a day. Alright. And this will do. So turn 3 Bristling Hydra would be quite nice. Turn 3 Electrostatic Pummeler with Blossom Defense backup would be kind of nice too. See if this Servant of the Conduit survives. There's a good chance my opponent has a Oath of Chandra or Harness Lightning for it. We'll see. Although my opponent may have nothing. No! And Oath of Chandra is just so good. It's like infuriating. Seems like it's obviously kind of risky to run out this Pummeler, but the idea of doing nothing this turn is kind of unacceptable. And things are just going to get worse on like the following turn, for example. I'm definitely not going to win with card advantage, so I do kind of need to win with tempo. Without another pump spell, though, this Electrostatic Pummeler's really not doing much. No move. Interesting. So I think because I have the option to play another Pummeler and keep Blossoming Defense up, I think I'm going to choose to do that. And I think I'm fine Blossoming Defense, or casting Blossoming Defense here. It denies my opponent the energy. Wow, does my opponent have a natural state? They're not just ending their turn. And having two of these in play makes me feel a lot more comfortable against a like a potential Chandra. And now if I draw any pump spell, all of a sudden it's really threatening. So I can double their size 3 times now. Fortunately, I don't really have anything going on, which is pretty annoying. Pummeler's just kind of nibbling away. I would expect another removal spell end of turn here. Yep. So I can burn 6 energy to save my Pummeler. And I think that's worth it. Now I'd really like to draw a pump spell. We did not. This is a pretty dire situation because I just don't have anything going on. And we're dead. Nice. All right, well, there's that game. On to the next one. Here we go. Wow, we're up against someone named Purple Rain. That is pretty awesome, not gonna lie. I like that quite a bit. So this is a really sweet hand. We get to be on the play, which is obviously great. But we can potentially go turn 2 Server the Conduit and turn 3 Electrostatic Pummeler with Blossoming Defense available. And we're up against a land that I have not played against before. I wonder what our opponent's doing. I don't think we're going to be able to punk our opponent out of the game. So I'm going to take this opportunity to play my Longtusk Cub because it plays around the 2-mana counterspell. Playing the Electrostatic Pummeler would also, because is it Revolutionary Rebuff or whatever? So I think it's in my best interest to burn Blossoming Defense here. That Shielded Aether Thief can be a real problem. And I do have the Harness Lightning, but getting it out of there is, I think, more important. So that's not a very good answer to Longtusk Cub. As you can see, that did not work out well for my opponent. Gideon, jeez. Well, if I didn't have this Harness Lightning, that would be a huge problem. Hmm. So I think that I want to so you can double the Electrostatic Pummeler power once, attack Gideon with the Servant and the Pummeler to kill him, and pump the Longtusk Cub once, and then pump him again so I get to deal 2. Yeah. And this is kind of blowing all my energy, which can be valuable when I have an Electrostatic Pummeler, but you know what would be insane here is Fumigate. Oh, I'm so lucky. I kind of inclined to just attack with everything, but I think I actually want to play the Tireless Tracker first because my untapped Servant of the Conduits might be able to fight through some counter magic, depending on what type of counter magic it is. Get that clue. Brawler. I'm a little nervous about a sweeper. So I'll just attack with the conduits rather than use them to pump the Voltaic Brawler. Wow, my opponent did nothing. I really expected another Shielded Aether Thief or something there. Well, so it looks like we're up against a control deck, and I'm sure there's some Gear Hulks that like Natural Obsolescence, Release the Gremlins would be good against. And I could bring in the Lifecrafter's Bestiary, but I don't think I actually want to play the long game against my opponent. So I think I'm just going to bring in the Chandras and these Hellions and just take out the sorcery speed pump. Kind of just leave it at that. On top of that, I may draw some extra stuff, but just give my opponent time to draw Fumigate, like mop it all up. So I really don't like Lifecrafter's Bestiary. The guy who built this deck and won the Star City Open probably would have brought it in this matchup. So if you're at home, you can, test both. But for me, I just don't want to do it. So I think that scrying that force at the top was actually probably a mistake. I sort of just looked at my hand and saw the two Aether Hubs. I was like, yeah, I definitely need a basic land. But then I realized it was like Attune with Aether, Servant of Conduit, Servant of Conduits. It's basically I scryed a land to the top when I had all lands. Wow, Stasis Snare my Servant. Jeez. Can't let me get ahead on mana, that's for sure. Mana for days. That's a huge problem. And I think I'm just do nothing. I mean, I could attack Gideon and if he blocks, use my rush of adrenaline, but ay. So if my opponent just does nothing but make knights, I will be completely and utterly dead. Oh, maybe that's an opening. If I could get this to stick, that would be really nice. I feel like it's unlikely, but I'm going to do nothing and hope that my opponent attacks with his knight allies again. Ooh, Avacyn. So I could use this to clean up all the knights. Yeah, I guess I'll do this. It's going to kill my Servant of the Conduit, and it's going to require me to use 3 energy for my Hydra. But maybe there's a way I can get something done here. One of the scariest things is if my opponent just pluses Gideon attacks here, which it looks like they are. I can't block with a Bristling Hydra because even though I can pump it to above 5 toughness, I cannot, like it has 3 damage on it. So. Only gives me 2 energy. Well, I'm just dead. Yeah, I really don't want to be slowly drawing extra cards with Lifecrafter's Bestiary when my opponent can just play an Avacyn. This is actually probably a decent matchup for Heroic Intervention, but I think my best move is to just try to punk my opponent out of the game. So I've got the 2 Chandras as basically my only removal spells. I think that's really all I need. So the way that I've sideboarded is I've taken out 1 larger than life and 2 harnessed lightnings and brought in the Lathnu Hellion and 2 Chandras. And this is going to have to be a mulligan. This will be a pretty awkward keep. So this is pretty tough. I really want a threat, but I, have to hit my land drops. So I think I'm going to top this. Even though this guarantees that, I'm going to do nothing on, I'm not going to draw a card on turn 1. On turn 2, I'm going to draw this mountain, have no play. And then on turn 3, I'm basically looking to draw a 3-drop. But basically, I would need to draw a 3-drop and then another untapped land to cast a 4-drop to make this hand really what I want it to be. But I don't really have a choice. Bottoming it, I don't think is going to lead to a good draw. So if I could draw exactly 1 creature this turn that costs 3 mana or less, and then draw a land, that would be great. I don't think my opponent's playing it, but I'm going to play around the 2-mana counterspell. So I have to worry about a counterspell, and I have to worry about a removal spell. I think I'm going to play the Longtusk Cub, because if my opponent has a removal spell, I can protect it with the Blossoming Defense. And if my opponent tries to go end of turn Stasis Snare, untap Gideon, that could be bad. Well, actually, maybe Chandra would be the best thing to do. No, I don't think Chandra would be the best thing to do. Yeah, I'll play the Longtusk Cub. So I can get around this with the Invigorated Rampage, but that will not help me with Gideon, so I'm just going to do this now. And I feel like this is now a good time to try to play Chandra. I haven't seen that many counterspells from my opponent, and if I play Bristling Hydra, there's a chance that my opponent is able to sweep my board. That'd be fairly devastating. So I do need to worry about Avacyn, but this gives me a chance to tick Chandra up a few times first. Aether Hub's kind of nice. So I do have to worry about Avacyn. Don't have anything that does anything against it. Guess I'll start with the tracker and see what my opponent does. My opponent doesn't have Avacyn. I think this is like the best move. So here I feel like I'm in pretty good shape if my opponent doesn't have Avacyn. So I'm not going to attack just to make it so that if my opponent does have Avacyn, I have the best chance of beating it. Because if my opponent doesn't have Avacyn here, I'm going to be in good shape. But if my opponent does have Avacyn and my Longtusk Cub gets ambushed and it is then able to attack my Chandra, that's really bad. So if my opponent has Fumigate, you know, I've missed out on between 2 and 4 damage. But I can reload with the Bristling Hydra and I have the Chandra, so I don't feel too bad about this. And if my opponent has Quarantine Field, that would obviously be great. But my opponent doesn't have Quarantine Field. I can ultimate this Chandra. That seems like it'd be pretty good, if you ask me. All right, well, this is basically the worst case scenario. Going after my clue, that dirty dog. Brutal. So I do have a fair amount of pump. Ooh, I like the Hellion. So this is looking kind of nice. My opponent could have a Gear Hulk. Even that wouldn't be the absolute end of the world. Saheeli, this is very annoying. So brutal. I'm better off using my bigger spell. Actually, no, I think I want to get the toughness in there. I definitely don't want to lose my Bristling Hydra, that's for sure. Am I casting this Rush of Adrenaline, then I only need to use 3 energy? And so now I still have enough energy to give the Bristling Hydra hexproof again if it needs it, and keep the Lathnu Hellion alive for a turn. So. And I actually should have done this in the reverse order. And I still might be able to punk my opponent out of the game here. I can Invigorated Rampage, give my guy hexproof, threaten lethal, and still have, you know, what I want still available. So my opponent's gotten me to blow all my other stuff. My opponent has like, I guess I don't have to worry about immolating glare. But if I Invigorated Rampage here, it would be 7 trample damage, knocking my opponent to 3. Isn't that great? But I really don't want this damage to go to waste, but or this threat, I should say. With my opponent having 4 cards, though, I'm pretty worried. But I think it's a good idea to get in this damage while I can. But this is definitely not a good situation for me. Getting another Lathnu Hellion on the top would be kind of a godsend. No, my guy. And this is the other reason I wanted to cash in that pump spell, is because I didn't think I'd get a good chance to use it again there. Like in that case, because my Bristling Hydra had gone up in power, the Invigorated Rampage was essentially a 6-point burn spell, or a 7-point burn spell. This is obviously a huge problem. Man, in hindsight, it would be great if I had some of my artifact enchantment removal. So my opponent can't threaten the lethal, technically. So maybe there's some way that my opponent doesn't have anything useful and I draw a pump spell that gives trample. But Fortunately, I feel like it's unlikely. My opponent's fourth Glimmer of Genius? Jeez. That's 9. One of the ways my opponent could deal lethal to me this turn is if he plays a redundant copy of Gideon, because that will legend rule the one he has and flip his Gideon. But I mean, there's just no way I'm blocking. The redundant Gideon, it is. And that'll be game. All right, next one. All right, so here we are in our third match. And we keep having these, like quite a few hands that look like they can be decent, then they don't really like go anywhere. This hand though does look kind of decent. Being able to go turn 2 Servant of the Conduit, and then turn 3 play Tireless Tracker and play a land is pretty nice. Being up against what I assume is Mardu vehicles is going to be pretty scary, and I'm pretty interested to see how this match actually goes. We have a vehicle, we have a Ballista. Ballista is pretty good against Electrostatic Pummeler. I mean, sometimes it's just not enough, but be like pretty annoying. Actually, in hindsight, I probably should have played the mountain instead of the Aether Hub last turn. But here we are. What do I want to do here? I think I do want to play the tracker, but I want to cast all my stuff. Might actually be a fine moment to play the Pummeler. Yeah, I'm just going to play the Pummeler. Actually, so I can play the Pummeler. Yeah, I'm safe from a removal spell and and the Ballista. So that means I'll get to attack with it. So I believe what my opponent should do is just, if he's going to try to kill the Pummeler, try to do it on his own turn. Because on my turn, he's got to worry about the Pummeler getting bigger. Nice. My opponent taps out. That's really good for me. All right, so maybe we can actually do something fun. So if I larger than life, this is a 5/5. And I can double it twice. So I think this is academic, right? Yeah. Oh, wait. Let's play this other forest. And now I get to Blossoming Defense in response. So it'll be a 7/7. And then I can double it. And it becomes 14/14. And then I can double it again. And it becomes a 28/28 trample. And 28/28's pretty good. All right, we did it. We got to do our thing. And our thing was pretty cool. All right, so in this matchup, I guess I want Release the Gremlins instead of Harness Lightning. And then I might just do nothing else. Our opponent can go into the really controlling version. But I feel like that's a lot less popular now. I actually wouldn't mind having the Chandras in my deck. But yeah, I'll trim 2 of the I do want to get these 2 Chandras in. But what do I trim? See, there's like no way that I'm going to be protecting these Chandras. Be just like a 4-mana removal spell, which isn't very good. So I'm just going to roll like this. I know it's a little crazy to not have shock, but I really want to make sure that my deck does what it's designed to do. And I'd rather not water down the synergies. And there's a chance that my opponent goes into a much more controlling version. So since I'm kind of in the dark, I'm just sort of playing it in the most generally safe way. There's a Ballista. I could actually make some pretty nice use with Release the Gremlins, especially because I've got mana acceleration. Man, I feel like I've played against this opponent HCK a million times on Moto. I don't know who they are, but so I don't really have a whole lot going on in this right now. Pretty annoying, obviously. Seems like my opponent doesn't have a whole lot going on either. There's a little consolation. Ooh. I think it might be time to kill both those. Actually, I guess it's probably not, because my opponent could fizzle my Release the Gremlins. So maybe I'll wait one more turn, especially because I have this tracker that I can play. If my opponent wants to pay 4 mana, kill my Tireless Tracker, I'm kind of okay with that. So this certainly smells like Avacyn, without a doubt. And I don't really have anything else to do, unfortunately. Here's Avacyn. This is another reason why I'm not that excited about bringing in Shock, is because even though it is a great tempo play against the fast draws, it doesn't interact with any of the like best stuff. No, this Avacyn's gonna kill me. Even if I had Chandra, it wouldn't do anything. So totally toast. Maybe if my opponent has no removal spells at all, I can do something fancy here, but I feel like it's unlikely. And I'm dead. All right, next game. So maybe I don't want to release the Gremlins. No, I think I do want to release the Gremlins. Ooh, it's a great hand. No, 1-drop. I like it. Ooh, Aether Hub. Might just get pushed, which would be pretty annoying. Yeah. So I'd rather just double Attune this turn. And the next turn I can play Tracker plus land. Take it from there. Wow. Well, that's surprising. And I think I do want to play the Aether Hub here, just so my opponent has to at least consider Blossom Defense. And also in case my opponent has a Thalia that they're looking to play. Very unlucky for my opponent. Bristling Hydra is a great draw. Game's likely going to be over. So one of the things that makes Mardu Ballista so strong is that it's so lean and efficient. And a lot of people talk about going bigger and being more controlling post board. And I really don't like it that much because you're losing one of the strengths of the deck. This is obviously very unlucky for my opponent. I don't want to make it out like I think he made some sort of mistake in sideboarding and that's why this is happening to him. But I just kind of want to bring up the point because I think it's, important one. But anyway, we won and we get to play our next match now. All right, here we go. Match number 4. I love these hands with Attune with Aether and Longtusk Cub. I like them a lot. Especially being on the play. Just not fair. I mean, honestly, it's like not fair. Play a 2 mana 3/3 that when it attacks becomes a 4/4. Unfortunately, Longtusk Cub is not particularly great against Fatal Push. Kind of sad sauce, but we do have the Bristling Hydra. Nice, no Fatal Push. Perfect. Wow, double swamp. Rather interesting. I wonder if we're against the mono black Eldrazi deck. Or we could be against the green black deck. So I think I want to just attack here. Things aren't really getting better for me. And if I don't attack now and my opponent plays something like a Rishkar, be pretty annoying. Get the damage in while I can. I think this guy's probably a goner, but I kind of want to make him kill it. And I can threaten to, have the same attack next turn. And at the end of combat, I can make my other Longtusk Cub a 4/4 also. So it kind of seems fine. And I don't think I really want to trade if I don't have to. I think I'd rather bash because my guys can get huge and completely blank, the damage this guy's dealing and receiving. Another land, you say? It's not quite ideal. So now if my opponent has double Fatal Push, that'd be great. If my opponent just has Grasp and Darkness, then it makes no sense for me to try to pump. And now things are kind of getting out of hand. My opponent gonna grasp the 2/2 before it gets out of range. Oh, my opponent's Fatal Pushing that, but after it already dealt damage. So I wonder if my opponent had Fatal Push and Grasp in Darkness. If my opponent didn't, then it seems like it makes no sense that he would have Fatal Pushed when he did. Seems like it would have made more sense to just Fatal Push on his turn or before my 4/4 Longtusk Cub did damage. Oh wow, we're against something special. We might actually be against like a mono black deck. Ooh, the Pummeler. The Pummeler is here. I guess I can just kind of attack with both. Whichever one he doesn't trade with is going to be a problem. Well, this doesn't make any sense. What? Yeah, that's fine. Seems like a clean 2-for-1 to me. So if I use another 2, that'll mean I'll get 2 back, and when I play Pummeler, I'll have a total of 6 energy left. That seems pretty decent to me. And now I'll have 2 fairly threatening creatures. Still have to worry about something like Fatal Push, but any pump spell will make Electrostatic Pummeler lethal. Wow. So I think my opponent was just mana screwed. I don't really want to make any changes in the post-board situation. I know I'm going to be facing more removal, but I don't want to board in such a slow source of card advantage like Lifecrafter's Bestiary. Because even though my opponent's going to have access to a lot of removal, my opponent can just beat me down with creatures also if I'm being really slow about my card advantage. And so that leaves, you know, Chandra is something that I could go to, but the -3 to deal 4 damage to something, a lot of my opponent's creatures are probably going to get out of range of that. So I think maybe what I'll do is I'll just bring in the Chandras, the Harvester. I like having flyers against green-black. I'm going to leave the 2 Harness Lightnings. That's my 1 removal spell. And then I'm just going to get rid of the larger than lives because they're the sorcery speed removal spell. Actually, we should just get rid of the Rush of Adrenaline and keep the larger than life because larger than life is so much more powerful. Yeah, that's what we'll do. No creatures, but whatever. Got a 4-drop. The fact that I have turn 1 Attune, turn 2 Harness Lightning means that I won't fall too far behind on tempo. And assuming that my opponent is going to be playing more removal spells, it's not like the end of the world if I don't have a 2-drop. So I think that's a pretty good thing to kill. Death Touch and Lifelink are both pretty relevant. Wow, Drana. So I'm starting to think that maybe we're not up against a green-black deck. Maybe we are up against just mono-red. Excuse me, mono-black. This Drana has potential to get out of control pretty fast. But with these two pump spells, my Bristling Hydra is a lethal attacker in 2 hits, so that's kind of cool. And the fact that I was able to play a Aether Hub and a Attune with Aether means that I have 3 energy before Bristling Hydra's trigger resolves. So it's not even like my opponent can really kill it with the trigger on the stack. So I should be all set in terms of keeping this baby alive. Yeah, that's not going to work. So not sure if my opponent missed that or is just unfamiliar with the interface and the cards. To note, I can't really block here, which is a little annoying. Well, that is if my opponent plays an artifact, I guess. Oh, wow, that's kind of cool. Go with the Syndicate Trafficker. So this seems like a mono-black Aetherborn theme deck. And I'm going to have to take this. This is going to be 7 damage, putting me to 11. Pretty annoying. So there's a very strong chance that my opponent can threaten lethal on his turn. But I don't think blocking is a very good idea for me, so I'm going to plan on attacking anyway. And this means that my Electrostatic Pummeler could be a decent chump blocker. Wow, 2 pummelers. That's kind of cool. So if my opponent doesn't have anything that does anything on his turn, and I can block with Electrostatic Pummeler, I should be able to win this game. That's pretty big if. I do not feel confident about it. But if my opponent doesn't draw something really good, then things get kind of interesting. One thing that I might have actually wanted to do was play the Invigorated Rampage. Whoa! That'll do it. That is game, folks. Not by much, just needs to kill the Pummeler, and if my opponent attacks with Drana and Syndicate Trafficker, I am dead. Yep, and that'll do it. All right, next one. I don't think I want to bring in Release the Gremlins. I think Chandra's going to be fine. So, yeah, I don't have any changes. And this is a nice hand. We don't get to do our turn 1 Attune, but we get to go, you know, we're going to be able to play our Longtusk Cub on turn 2, and then on turn 3 we can play Aether Hub and Pummeler, having access to 4 energy pre-combat. So our Longtusk Cub should be able to basically push through anything. We could elect to play all of our cards 1 turn slower so that we could have Blossoming Defense available, but I don't think that's actually like a good idea. Although if we had X-ray vision of our opponent's hand, knew they'd have Fiddle Push, it'd certainly be something worth considering. And it's not really the end of the world if this Pummeler dies, but it would be pretty annoying that this Gifted Aetherborn is just going to start whittling us down. Wow, Metallic Mimic. So I think our opponent does have the full Aetherborn theme. Oh wow, Servo. So that's going to be doing some fancy stuff, I think, on the next turn with the Fabricate creature. Kind of awesome. Well, it's unlikely that I'm going to be able to attack with the Bristling Hydra. And I think the way that I'm going to win this game is by keeping my Electrostatic Pummeler alive and then getting in some sort of really big attack at some point. So I think I want to hold up this Blossoming Defense. With the Bristling Hydra, all I need to do to deal 20 damage is to just get one of the, +4 attack things. So do I want to block here and use 2 energy? I don't think so. I guess I do. I mean, I'll have the Bristling Hydra on defense holding everyone else back. My Longtusk Cub isn't really getting anything else done. And, if my opponent decides to attack again next turn, what are my options? So I might as well just do this now, even though it does use up some of my energy. But my main goal here is just to build up critical mass of stuff. And then sort of unload it. If I get to untap with this Harness Lightning, that'll make me feel pretty good too. I don't think I want to just go, I don't think I want to go after the Metallic Mimic right away. Because the servos are only going to be 2/2s. The Syndicate Trafficker, or whatever the 2-mana 3/1 is, that lets him sacrifice a creature to put a +1/+1 counter on it and give it indestructible. Obviously, we have a problem, and Harness Lightning doesn't do anything about that, but this Harness Lightning might end up just being 2 mana, get 3 energy. Whew, that's bad news. No, hold steady. I think because I have this Harnessed Lightning, if my opponent tries to kill the Pummeler with the Ballista, I will use energy to save it. But if my opponent tries to level up the Ballista, I basically have to Harness Lightning it. And in that case, I'm not so sure I want to use the energy. Wow, another Ballista. Okay. Surprised my opponent played another Ballista rather than leveling that one up. Guess I shouldn't complain though. Wow. Well, this is definitely depleting my resources. It's pretty annoying. And I wonder if I should fire off my Harness Lightning here. So I can do it on the Metallic Mimic and get myself some energy, which would be kind of nice. Because this is still on the stack. I guess I can just do it on my turn. If I draw a Trample Pump spell, that'll be really good. And I do not like doing this, but I'm down to 1 energy. All I have is a Blossoming Defense, so I really can't do anything particularly devastating. Well, that's a thing that gives energy. So I can play this, and I can actually attack with my Bristling Hydra, which is nice. So that's cool. Because if my opponent double blocks, then I can just use the Blossom Defense, and I still have the 3 energy on my Bristling Hydra for, you know, keep it safe. And as my resources are getting depleted, this Electrostatic Pummeler is looking less and less valuable. Well, that doesn't block. Sure. Let's race. I am down. That is what I like to see. Bring it, my man. Longtusk Cub is pretty decent. I have no intention of using my 3 energy. And I'm very happy to race. I have more power on the board, and my opponent has a creature that just can't block. So I feel like my opponent's better off trying to play the control, but I guess the contents of their hand do not make that particularly viable. Scrappy Scrounger certainly is not good at playing the control. Wow, Lost Legacy. All right. I wonder what he's going to choose. Also really surprised that my opponent even has that. Wow, your name's Bristling Hydra. That's the card that's giving me the most problems. That's pretty funny. Well, you got him, buddy. So I feel like for those of you who like playing cards like Lost Legacy, I feel like the 2 things that you really want to weigh are or the things that you want to weigh. Basically, Lost Legacy, it's great that it takes out an entire angle of attack, but the fact that you can play it like in the context that my opponent did and just have it not actually interact with the board or your opponent's hand whatsoever. They may just draw cards that are close to as good, and you're just basically going to have mulliganed. So for those reasons, I'm extremely unexcited about the card. All right, so what do I want to do here? I could just attack with everything. Yeah, I think I'll just attack with everything. This is a situation where just as long as I don't trade resources at a deficit, this actually might be a good situation to do this. I don't think my opponent has Fatal Push. Otherwise I would have used it already. And these servos are obviously, anything that they do is essentially a 2-for-1. So this is fine by me. Yes, sir. I would have been a little more worried if my opponent put like 1 blocker on the Cub and 1 blocker on the Pummeler. There's a chance that I just did nothing there, pushing a lot of damage and just letting my Pummeler die for free in the Longtusk Cub trade. But because in the offhand chance that my opponent did have a Fatal Push, it's can be pretty bad for me if I try to fire up Blossoming Defense. My opponent basically 2-for-1s me twice. But because I'm pushing so much damage, then I still have the energy to keep my Bristling Hydra alive and the Blossoming Defense, and I still have the bigger board than my opponent. I think trading there, even though it's at a deficit, would have been fine. So anyway, next match. All right, here we are in the final match. This is to see if we can win and have a positive win ratio for our league, or lose with an unfortunate 2-3. Thinking of all the things that could have been. So normally I would just keep any non-land on top with a hand like this, but this Servant of the Conduit's kind of just like a land. I really want to find a Pummeler or Tireless Tracker, just something that does a little more than just be a 2-2. Considering this deck only plays 20 lands, the fact that it has 4 Attune with Aether and 4 Servant of the Conduit means that it floods out pretty bad. Ugh. Or pretty easily, I should say. There's a Pummeler. So what do I want to do here? I guess I should just play it. If my opponent plays a Saheeli, I can just kill them. My opponent doesn't have that many removal spells, so I can attack through this and knock my opponent down to 2. Whoa! We're gonna do it! Oh, that's sweet. And this is what we call combo. And we did it. Well, that was awesome. That was super sweet. And for sideboarding, kind of don't want to sideboard anything. I think I'm just going to take out these 2. Whoa. I really don't want to try to interact with my opponent's combo. Guess the 2 shocks are fine. They interact with the combo, they can finish off planeswalkers, they can kill a rogue refiner. I actually kind of like the idea of playing Lathnu Hellion and Heroic Intervention instead. And just completely ignore the combo from my opponent's side. And just try to rush my opponent down as aggressively as possible. Even though this deck is prone to flooding out, I kind of feel like these Tireless Trackers should be Lathnu Hellions. I know there's a lot of good ways to chump block things, but the Server of the Conduits also kind of feel like overkill. The 2/2 body doesn't do a whole lot, and it there's already just so much mana in the deck. I almost prefer to have like a green belt Rampager. Both of Nissa would also be kind of sweet, but not sure how good of an idea that really would be. I do like the idea of green belt Rampager a lot, though. I think that card is great. 3/4 body is real nice. I'm going turn 2 Voltaic Brawler, turn 3 Electrostatic Pummeler, and I'm going to have a fair amount of energy. I'm going to have 8 energy. Means that Rush of the Gremlins could be lethal on its own, depending on how things go. Oh, Ballista. Go roast! So the main reason that this deck would play Walking Ballista is because it's really good against like opposing Saheeli combo decks. So that's the main application. But the fact that so many people are playing Walking Ballista and it kind of gets splash hate on Electrostatic Pummeler is pretty rough. My opponent gets Mountain here, 100%. Oath of Chandra. No, please no Oath of Chandra. I don't want to lose my guy. Wow, another one. Well, this means I get to attack. Cool. And so I would actually just rather not cast my Pummeler. But considering I don't have anything else, I'm definitely going to. Uh-oh. Hope my opponent's not seeding again. Alright. Might as well. Gotta get some amount of pressure going. So I think the most devastating thing that my opponent could do right now is just play a Chandra and kill my guy. And then I would, you know, be facing 2 Ballistas and a Chandra against nothing. So I think I want to play the Electrostatic Pummeler now. Because that way, if my opponent wants to kill it, kind of needs to use both of his Ballistas. And at least then it'd just be empty board versus Chandra and nothing else, rather than giving my opponent the chance to start leveling up the Ballistas. That could be dangerous. Can't really do anything until my opponent does. So this isn't a completely unprofitable exchange for me. Because my Pummeler will live through this, so yeah, I get the 2-for-1. So if I could draw another threat here, that'd be pretty nice. Not the threat I wanted, but it is a thing. Might as well continue bashing for 4 since it's all I got going on. And I've got these Rush of Adrenalines. So instead of this Heroic Intervention, I could have Shock. And I'm a lot happier to have this Heroic Intervention right now. Because all I want to do is make sure that I'm not in a situation where I have no threat. Like if my opponent plays a Chandra here, that would be bad. Although if my opponent goes for the combo, I'm going to really wish I had a Shock. Alright, Refiner's in hand. With the Oath of Nissa, my opponent can easily cast Saheeli. Is this Refiner or Saheeli? There's Saheeli. Alright, I guess I wish this was Shock. And we're dead. Alright. Alright, I'm going to stick to my guns though. I don't think I'm going to win by interacting with the combo. I think I'm going to win by just rushing my opponent down. Basically making the claim that I do something more powerful more quickly. You could see when we were getting to that stage in the game that I was pretty close to out of resources. My opponent was almost out of life, and um, you know, things had only been slightly different on that one turn. I might have been able to kill him. Like if I had another energy, so I could have access to 2 red mana that turn, and I'd drawn like a larger than life, I could have just killed my opponent. Kind of cool. I actually hate these rush of Johns. Ugh, these hands are like the worst, but I don't think mulliganing is that good of an idea. So not boarding in cards like Chandra and um, Shock against a deck that's trying to mid-range me out and combo me out, understand how would seem a little crazy to a lot of people. And so basically the thing is I don't think I'm going to be able to win in the mid-range battle against my opponent, and I don't think I'm going to be able to control them because I'll just run out of cards trying to answer all their stuff. So because of that, I really value just um, I really value what makes my deck good, and that is this game plan of combat tricks and pressure. So on the situations where my opponent does have the combo early, I'm going to be in really bad shape and probably just lose. But I feel like in all the matches on the play, my average draw should just kind of run over their average draw. But the main thing you'd want to do is make sure that whenever you're sitting down for a matchup, whatever is your strength in the matchup, whatever makes your deck good, you don't lose that. And the deck that I'm playing is not good at trading, and it's not good. Well, yeah, so I just don't want to do that. And trading is a big part of a mid-range game plan as well as a control game plan. Remember the Conduit number 2. I think that's fine. I don't really need that server in the Conduit. So this does mean that my opponent could potentially kill me on his turn. My opponent will have access to 6 mana. So my opponent could go land, Felidar Guardian, blink a land, have access to 3 mana, Saheeli. And that would do it. Well, that's not going to work out for my opponent. And there's a good chance that I even just ignore this Chandra. Go after my opponent. So once This twice, hit for 6. And should be pretty safe to kill my opponent on this upcoming turn. I could have threatened a lethal attack there by not playing the Servant of the Conduit, but I would have had to cast all my stuff, and I wasn't really keen on doing that. More energy. Dude, maybe this Longtusk Cub is gonna go all the way. I feel like if my opponent had an instant speed removal spell, he or she would have used it. So I think I'm basically all in on my Longtusk Cub living. So hope this works. It's a 12-8. My opponent can kill it if he has... Oh wait, no, my opponent can't kill it. Because Servant of the Conduit would need to use an energy for Harness Lightning, and then my own opponent would only have 8. So I think that's game. We did it, folks! Crazy! Well, we got to win on a high note, so that was really cool. This deck's really fun. It is a little sketchy in a few regards, though. I feel like it has a little too much mana. I don't think these Servant of Conduits are needed. And but I do like Longtusk Cub, Electrostatic Pummeler, Bristling Hydra, and ways to give them trample. That part of the deck seems like the strongest to me. So I'll probably think about how I would potentially revamp it, and I'll have that in the written portion of the article. But yeah, so that's that. All right, well, thanks a lot, guys. Thank you so much for joining. You guys are great. You're the real heroes here, and look forward to seeing if you guys have any feedback for me. If you have any, questions, comments, whatever, like definitely, comment, and I'll read all of that stuff. So hit me up, and I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for joining me.